Justin Turner today. He out here wilding. His contract demands hit the rumor sphere. What are your thoughts
Uh,
on that, Chief?
I mean, I think you said it best. This is no disrespect to Justin Turner or anything like that. I think a reoccurring theme that's happening is I want to be careful every time I talk about him because I don't want to make it seem like I'm not grateful for what he's done for the city or grateful what he's done for the team. I don't think that there's a fan out there that doesn't want him back on the team for the right length of time or the right contract. But he wants 4 years, and
Yeah.
my math, I did not do well in math in any part of school, but that means that he will be finishing out that contract right around the time that he turns 40, and that is
Old.
that's a tough sell.
Old.
That's a tough sell for a guy who plays the hot corner.
That's not the Dodger way. They're not going to give him a contract of that length at this age. He's 36. His knees ain't good no more. They haven't been good for a while. His surgically repaired knees, I should point out. And this is a tough time as a Dodger fan, or as just as a sports fan, because we as Dodger fans haven't had to really deal with this in a while. I mean, you know, Andre Ethier was kind of in the same boat, but it was pretty obvious like there wasn't a spot for him. And to be fair, he was on the trade block for the last, I don't know, 8 years of his Dodger career in some way, shape, or form. But with Justin Turner, there's an obvious spot for him. There's an obvious need for him in the lineup. But at the same time, if he wants that kind of money, and you know what, he might deserve it. He's still one of the elite bats in the game. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but yeah, I think he posted like a 130 weighted runs created plus last year. He's very good. He do very good with the bat.
He's still very good. It's unfortunate for him because the Dodgers are in a position in years past. You think about like the Chase Utley contract and stuff like that. Those are contracts that they could kind of afford to give out. Yeah. There weren't any immediate roster openings for that particular position or that type of bat or what he could bring to the team. There was literally no risk associated with it. It didn't hurt anything to have him there. Now they're in a position where if you sign Turner to a 4-year contract, it's probably hurting the team.
Yeah.
It might help out for the next 2 years, of course, because I think for the next 2 years, he's still going to be a very good bat. I think his defense will probably continue to gradually decline. I don't think it's going to get better with age, but in terms of a 4-year deal, I think that's where you start to shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. So if I'm Justin Turner, and I'm hearing from the Dodgers, which it sounds like from reports that the Dodgers want to do a 2-year deal with him. If that's the case, if another team's offering me 4 years, I'm all for it, man. JT, take that contract, dude. If you can get your 4 years guaranteed, if you can get paid up until you turn 40, that's a great way to wrap up your career. That's a great way to wrap it up. Secure the bag, make sure you're taken care of in your retirement, and you can come back to LA anytime and live here.
As Dodger fans, we might forget that in his career he's only secured the big bag once. He wasn't some heralded guy. He signed a minor league deal with LA as a 29-year-old. He got a $64 million deal, 4-year deal or something like that in that 16-17 offseason. You got to look a little bit for you. He's got to look for Courtner. He's got to look for the family. He's got to look for the doggos and all that. You got to look at that money side of it beyond, either way. If he leaves today and he goes out with middle fingers up to the organization, he's still a Dodger legend. The door is open. He can come back anytime that he wants. He can come take Dave's job when he wants to, whatever the hell it is. But when you are looking at your future as a person, and these other teams might be giving you more money, guaranteed money, because this is baseball. You are guaranteed that money, regardless of the situation. Unless you decide to not show up. So he could just show up, Albert Pujols, and keep making a lot of money. And you're that old, you want to try to maybe break, I don't know, $100 million in earnings in your career. I guess he's probably somewhere near that. You do got to take that into consideration over the legacy.
Right. And you talk about he's a guy that's got paid later in his career, and that obviously plays into what he's going to do in terms of this contract. This is probably the last contract that he's going to get of his career. He's only made $62 million in his entire career as a whole, and all of that was from the Dodgers. And obviously he didn't get all 64 paid out because of the shortened 60-game season, so he loses a little bit of money there. And if you're looking at, like, number one, what he's brought to LA, number two, what he's done in the playoffs, and number three, just his consistent performance, you look at that and you're like, oh, you're 36 years old and you've only made $62 million. Like that, something doesn't track there.
Mhm.
And his career showed up later. It did. It showed up when he came to LA. Everybody knows that. I don't think that's a secret by now. But with that in mind, you kind of want to look to make some extra money before you get out of here. I don't know if he's going to take a hometown deal just to, just to be able to play
Yeah.
here and finish it out here or whatever he wants to do. I don't know that he's going to want to do that because, again, $62 million is a lot of money for normal people like you and I,
Yeah.
obviously. For a baseball player, he's fallen pretty short of where he probably should have
There
been.
is a value in signing where you want to be. Yeah, you got to look at this is his home. This is the team he grew up rooting for. They just won a World Series. For being real, he did not win the World Series the way he wanted to. I don't think anybody did, but especially Justin F. Turner. You would think you would want to try to run it back. On a different side of things, as we've mentioned, as you talked about, Dave Roberts had mentioned, there is something good about injecting new life, new blood, just different people into the locker room. So I think as much as Doc loves JT and he said I would take him back in any situation, I think there is something kind of there where he would consider being maybe okay with not having Justin Turner around, even though, dude, I mean, there's nobody more Dodger clubhouse. I think I wrote something over the weekend about it. There's nobody more Dodger clubhouse than Justin Turner. Sure, Kenley Jansen, sure, Clayton Kershaw have been around longer in that Dodger clubhouse, but no, they're not going to look up to nobody in that clubhouse. None of the rooks are going to look up to them the way they look up to Justin Turner. So he can assign that value to his to what he's looking for this offseason. But just doubling back, as I'm probably scatterbrained in this, 4 years is a lot, even if it's one of those sort of Chase Utley deals where it's really like 2 and a pair of like player options, or maybe player and then a mutual for that 4th year. I don't think he wants to do that because he is one of the elite batters still in the game. And I saw a few comments. Anthony asked earlier, any word on whether the DH is sticking around? At this point in time, it does not seem like it. They've said to plan for it. MLB, the league has said to plan for out without the DH. That severely mitigates JT's value to this Dodger team, unless they find a way to play him at first. But I don't know. I just can't. Max Muncy at third is a god awful option.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple comments drop in here, but Dodgers 2080, what are we calling that? Our sister station? Is that what we call that? Dodgers 2080. Always got good stuff on our prospects out there. Go check them out.
Tim.
Run by Mr. Tim himself, the man, the myth, the legend. Tim brought up, though, he says it might be Mookie's clubhouse now. And that's an aspect that we had kind of started talking about towards the middle of the season, where it was like, people start asking who's the team leader, and it's like you kind of have seen JT kind of take a little bit of a step back in being the front man for things. And it really did kind of become Mookie's team overnight, to the point where you're like, everything that it started when the team decided not to play in the middle of the social injustice things that were going on, and I think it was against the Giants that week when they said, hey, we're just not going to play today. And that was kind of the start of it, where you were like, oh yeah, Mookie is kind of the team leader. Like, he's the face of the team now. And you think about Justin Turner leaving, and all of a sudden that's a little bit of a softer blow, and it doesn't really hurt you quite as much. Where in years past, if that weren't the case, you'd be like, we got to get JT back. We have to have him back in that clubhouse. I know he's old. I know his knee's hurt. I know he's not great at 3B anymore, but we need him back.
Yeah.
And it's just not really the case anymore. Alternatively, I forgot where the comment went. I lost it, but somebody had asked, is there a team out there right now willing to give JT a 4-year deal? And I don't know that there is. Is there?
I could not imagine it, because he's not as good as a bat as he is. He's not somebody that you would build your team around. He's not an MVP. He's not like still elite top of his craft. I mean, the closest comp maybe you would get, and it's still such a far separator, is the contract Josh Donaldson got last year. What, 4 and like 50, 4 and 60 or something like that from the Twins. But that was a team that needed, there is those times like the Lakers needed LeBron as much as so many people hated it at the time. They needed somebody to bring in kind of the other star power and get the motor running again, because nobody wanted to play for the Lakers. It was painfully apparent. They were terrible. You need that somebody. So with the Twins, they needed that like kind of legitimate bat that can come in and be like, this is how we do it. I don't know if JT has the same weight that a Josh Donaldson has. So if he goes to, I don't know, Toronto, where he's been linked, yeah, it's really hard to find that comp, to see somebody that would give him the 4, even if they're asking for 4 and they want 3. 3 is still a reach, because that leaves him as a 39-year-old.
I don't hate the idea of a 2-year contract and then a team option. I don't hate that, but also if you're Turner, do you take that? Do you take that risk? I don't know that you do as a player, because that is essentially taking a 2-year deal if you're Justin Turner. If you're putting it into the hands of the franchise to pick up that 3rd year, you're basically taking a 2-year deal.
We know I would bet good American human money that the DH will be in effect. Universal DH will be in effect by next season, 2022. So there is something, JT's not he's not an all out, effort. He's not a max effort hack kind of guy. He's still going to get his doubles and singles. Maybe the home run pop won't quite be there like it was in 19. So you could kind of stash him, maybe get away with it a little bit in 2021 season, kind of go from there. It is something you look at, but do you want to put yourself in that potential risk where, again, this is where it's tough now for Dodgers fans, because we've had this kind of status quo. It's a good status quo for so long, but now there's a legend. I don't think I ever completed my Ethier thought. There's a legend that's leaving, and we have complete control of the situation. And not completely. Obviously, he can go wherever the hell he wants, but if you give him the money, give him the years, he's going to come back. You have that control of the situation. We might see him leave. So that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you. And everybody in the audience do participate in this, but are we truly prepared to see Justin Turner in another uniform in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing. It's always tough to watch people that you loved that played for your team. Like, I mean, put yourself in your own shoes. Just a few years ago, it was really hard to imagine the Dodgers moving Yasiel Puig or Puig playing anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at it and you're like, oh yeah, that was a great move. Absolutely, it made total sense. Same thing with Matt Kemp. When the first time that he got traded, not the second time. The first time he got traded, you were like, oh my God, Matt Kemp is leaving the Dodgers. Like, this is the worst day of my life. We'll never be good ever again. You fast forward, and obviously it all makes sense. It's things hurt at the time, but sometimes it's what's best for you. So I think, if given the circumstances, in my mind, if JT is saying like, all right, I'll settle on a 2-year deal, and then the Dodgers don't give him a contract, maybe I have a problem with that. I might have a little bit of an issue with that. But if he's set on a 3rd or 4th year, whatever it might be, good for him. Go get that from somewhere. If you can get that from somewhere, go do it, man. I'm always going to cheer for you. I'm always going to root for you. I'm always going to want the best for you. You will forever be the guy that carried us, that did things that were, inexplainable.
Yeah.
This guy comes over from the Mets on possibly the last contract of his life before he stops playing Major League Baseball because he's just awful, and then comes over to the Dodgers and turns into this, like the guy that everybody wants on their team, the clubhouse leader everybody wants on their team, the playoff bat everybody wants on their team. It's a great story, and it's something that I think we'll remember long after you and I are gone.